everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to take some forage samples and hopefully you can use this for the Innovative Farmers project. So here I am in the field. I've got a quadrat. I've got something to cut the forage with. These are a special pair of shears, but you can use a knife or scissors or whatever you have to hand. And I've got a bag to save the sample in. So I would pick a spot in your field at random by taking the quadrat and throwing it over your shoulder so you can't see where it lands. Okay, now I would walk to where it's landed. Okay, where I've reached the quadrat, I would make sure that anything inside the quadrat is only things which have their roots or the start of the shoot inside the quadrat. So anything that's bent over should be pulled back outside to make sure that you're only sampling from the right area. Okay, so the first thing that we're suggesting that you do is to assess the species present. Okay, so when I'm assessing the composition of species in this sample, I'd be looking for the different functional groups, so grasses, legumes and herbs. And in this particular sample I can see that there's quite a lot of grass. We've got some white clover, so some legume. And I can also see that there's some plantain and some yarrow here, so some examples of some herbs as well. And it's a subjective assessment that you need to do of what percentage of the biomass here is made up of those different functional groups. So I would say in this particular sample, with this amount of grass relative to everything else, that perhaps the sample is 60% grass. The clover there seems to be quite a lot of it, so perhaps 20% clover, maybe 15% made up of herbs, and I can see that there's a very small amount of weeds as well, so maybe 5% of weeds in there. So and over the season, with enough subjective assessments from all of the different farmers, we'll be able to interpret those into some grouped data. And also you should tick boxes to show which species are present or absent. So if a species is present in this sample, you would tick the box for that species. So I would tick for white clover, for plantain, and for cocksfoot, timothy and perennial ryegrass in this particular sample. Okay. Once you've done the species assessment, then you should take your knife or cutting implement. So I would take the scissors and I would cut at the height that the cows are going to eat down to. So we normally say about 7 centimetres. So grasping the forage, take cuts at that level. As you work across, keep adding to your bag. Make sure you haven't missed any bits at the end. Okay. Now you should try and just seal the bag loosely so that you don't lose any moisture on your way back to the farm. And this is now ready to weigh. Okay. So once I've taken my sample, I want to come back to a building where you have some scales, and I'm just going to weigh the fresh weight of this particular sample. So first I would take a bag from the same pack as the bag that you've used for collection, and I would use it to take a zero weight for the weight of the bag. So here's my scales, and just placing the bag on the scales probably so that it's not touching anything around it, so you might have to fold it first. And now I press the 0 button. Okay, I can see that the scales have gone to 0. So now I can just place my bag of sample onto the scales and record the weight. So this particular weight is 69 grams. And I know that because that's in a quarter of a metre squared, I could times that by 4 to get how much is actually in a metre squared, and you can times it up to see how much you have in kilograms dry matter per hectare. So if I wanted to also know the dry matter of the forage, which is good to know in terms of yield measurements, I could either send this sample to the lab, or if this isn't a sample that's going to be sent to the lab, I might want to do a microwave dry matter. So the way you would do that is take your sample and also have a microwavable pot. And you would place the pot about the scales and again 0 that way. Now I would add the sample into the pot. If you can't fit in the whole sample, you can just do half as long as it's representative. You don't have to do the whole thing. So I would record the weight of the start weight of the sample, and I would then record its weight after repeated time periods in the microwave. So initially you might want to start with 2-minute cycles, but as the forage gets drier and drier, you'll want to only put it on for a very short period of time until you see that the weight has stopped decreasing. And that means that all of the water has gone and there's no more water remaining, so that would be the dry sample. So here's mine, I'm just going to put it in the microwave. So after you put it in the microwave multiple times, each time slightly decreasing the amount of time that you leave it in there for until you're down to about only 10 seconds, just when you can see that the weight is hardly decreasing at all and you're very close to it being dry. That way you'll make sure that you won't accidentally set fire to the material, so do be careful. And when it is dry and you've got 2 weights after your 10 seconds that are the same number of grams, then you can say the sample's dry and you can just record the weight of that dried sample. And the dry matter percentage would be that end weight divided by the start weight as a percentage.